Every AI agent tutorial I've watched is getting it wrong. They're building workflows linear, same every time automations, and slapping the word agent on it. An agent looks at your data and decides what to do next, different inputs, different actions, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to walk you through one I actually run every single day. No theory, no philosophy. I'm going to show you a real agent, how it works, and how you can set one up for yourself. All right, let's dive in. So here is a finished workflow with an AI agent that actually decides. And so it's taking Perplexity data. So let's say you were to go to do some web research and that's it. This agent takes that research that was already done by AI and then actually oversees it and makes an informed decision. Is it relevant to Chris? If not, remove it. If it is relevant, how can Chris mold it for his audience? That's what the agent does. And then it organizes all the information and it gets dumped into Notion. But the main part here is the AI agent is here. Now, this is just a straight model, very linear. But here's why I would consider this an AI agent. Because a straight LLM call would just be like your typical ChatGPT. You just feed it information. But in this case, it's making an informed decision based on an output that AI does over here with Perplexity. But more or less, if you really want to make it an AI agent, you would just give it tools, memory, where it decides and it does more autonomous tasks. You're not just saying, hey, generate me hooks. So let's dive in. Here's a workflow that runs a typical faceless channel. It generates sort of 2 videos on autopilot. And it has a tool, and what it's doing here is pretty cool but basic. But it hopefully nails down what makes an agent. Here, how I have it set up, you can have it set up multiple ways, but sometimes it makes sense to use the agent. If you were to run this, it says, hey, AI agent, please look at my history. Look at the database. Make sure that the last 5 ideas that you have in your history, do not use them. And so this AI agent is going to generate a Sora 2 prompt, and it's going to look at the history and say, I talked about food, I talked about mountains, I talked about X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to talk about this. Let me generate it. Let me generate a new Sora prompt and not talking about this. And that's a cleaner way to do it versus doing something crazy. I don't know, feeding a large data set, or this way it works smarter. Now, there are certain cons. As the database grows, you could run into an issue where it's burning more tokens. And that's why personally I had to set it up this way, where it just queries the database in the beginning. And then here we have a code node that says, hey, I just want to choose the top 5. That way we control the amount. AI is only ever going to get 5 records, and it's going to say, just don't use these 5. Query, but imagine if it gets after 3 months, 6 months, you have 1,000 records or 500 or 200. It's going to look at all the 200. It's going to try to look for them and say, okay, I can't use the last 5. And so this way I just control it, but this is an AI agent here. You could attach memory if it makes sense, if you're running loops around the entire workflow, or you want to maybe use another sub-agent within this. So let's say you had an AI agent that will orchestrate a marketing team, and then you want to add like a Twitter generator and LinkedIn. You could do that if you wanted to. Personally, I have not had the use case to do that, but again, if you want to do something like that, as an example, you could. A workflow is very linear. It goes like trigger, 1, 2, 3. It makes decisions. It has a tool A, maybe tool B. I just to show you an example of showing you one tool, but you could attach more tools. You could give it like browser access. Maybe you add Perplexity. You could give it a database like I showed you earlier. And basically the agent could make a smart choice. It says you can maybe give it 5 tools, and maybe it doesn't need to use all 5, but it will make that judgment call, right? It'll say, maybe I need to use this tool, and then the agent decides, I need to use this skill. Let me invoke the designer agent to use this. And then the designer agent gets invoked by the main agent. Designer agent gets to work, does his output, it gives it to the main agent. And so that's the beautiful part of agent. You can make something complex a little less complex because the agent is making the hard decisions. And here's another analogy that might help you. So a workflow can be like a recipe. An agent is the chef. The recipe might say add salt, but the chef, in this case the agent, tastes it and then decides what to do. And we're going to just pull it up here. I want to show you. So this is a brand new canvas in n8n, and here's an AI agent. Now, don't let this name fool you. We already saw the difference. These didn't exist maybe a year or 2 ago. When we were first in the pre-AI phase, we're just having an AI model run in a workflow was revolutionary. The model did, but you would just choose the model and that's it. You wouldn't need to have memory. You wouldn't have tool. You couldn't invoke sub-agents. None of that really existed. So this technically is an AI agent. So let's make this agent, let's call him the X expert, the tweet agent. He's going to help us generate tweets, right? Hypothetically. This is going to be very basic. And so we're going to use Claude. Hey Claude, I'm building in a tweet agent in n8n. Help me draft a user instructions and system instructions. And it's going to get triggered by a chat. And so I'm using something called Super Whisper. I also recommend Voice Ink. You don't want to type this out. It just makes you more productive. I'm running this live. Opus is going to work, and hopefully it gives us something soon. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to hit define. And now we're going to type in the user message, and we're also going to add the system message here. And so that's it. Let's see if Opus is done. It's still going. And so how it's going to work is I'm just going to type in a chat and then get to work. This is actually pretty smart. So you may not get the same experience because it just depends on how you interact with Claude. It was actually generating instructions based on that. So you might get a more generic or you might get a more advanced instructions depending on the model. I'm using Opus, which is what I would recommend when you're working with n8n, but Opus is the absolute best, and I just haven't gone down from that. It's just phenomenal. But all right, so here is the results, and I'm just going to copy this. Typically, I would review this on a regular basis. I wouldn't read everything, but I would skim it to make sure it makes sense. You don't want to just blindly copy what it says, but for now, we're going to take it, and we're going to type it in here, and here it has a chat input, so let's see if it works. And so this is an example of an agent, right? And so I'm going to say, help me. So it's going to run. For when mini is fast, it should come up pretty quick, and let's see what it comes out with. I give this like a solid 4 or 5 out of 10. It's okay, but I just want to show the example. This is just a straight LLM agent, no different than ChatGPT, just going in the browser, same thing. Now to make it an agent, as I showed you earlier, we're going to add a tool. And so for the sake of this example, I'm going to add just a memory tool to show you how it works, right? So this is not a tool, this is a memory. But this was what will make an AI agent. I'm going to type in the topic. So it's going to generate a tweet on the n8n topic. So here are 3 tweet variations. Okay, cool. Now, I like option B, make it better and punchier. So it started with this, right? I gave it a bland topic. You could even customize the agent. If you just give it a keyword, it can still generate something, but you want to be more specific. That makes sense, right? So it gave me 3 tweet options. I just picked B. If you didn't have the memory and you were like to say this, I like option B, make it punchier, the agent would be like, what are you talking about? Please give me a topic. So that's with the power of the memory. There's certain instances where it makes sense to loop back in the same workflow. Maybe for something like a customer service chat or something like that, that's when memory might become useful. So it just depends. That's an AI agent, truly. And you could add perplexity, and you can make this even better and say, hey, when I give you a topic, research it and give me back. Let's say I want to talk about n8n. I'll just say, find me the latest news. I want to talk about the latest news on n8n. Just type that in. This agent will go to work, use perplexity, find the latest news, and then write a tweet on that based on your standards. So that's how powerful it is. But I'm just saying you could make it more agentic. And that's the difference of just a single LLM call, which is not a bad thing, versus an AI agent. So this is a simple build. I could have gone more complex, but the rule of thumb is I always start like this. Understand what you're going to automate. Stop trying to chase the complex workflows. You don't need to chase complexity. In fact, I'm going to show you why sometimes you shouldn't build an AI agent in the traditional sense that I'm describing, and why a single node like this that uses like a single LLM call is powerful, and that's all you need. In most cases, that's what it's going to be. At least that's been my experience. But let me actually stop talking. Let me just get to showing you. So I want to start by saying that I've wasted so much time building complex workflows, trying to use complex AI agent builds, when I should have just kept things simple, right? I always thought the more sophisticated, the more highest AI tech that I was using meant better, and it wasn't. Honestly, the most important thing is understanding the process. If you have a working process, that's worth gold. That's the formula recipe, because forget about all the AI agent tools and everything. If you have a working process, even if it's manual, that in itself is valuable, right? If you have something that's not working and you want it to work, that's worth nothing. That's just ambition. That's just wanting to make something work with AI. If you don't know the process, if you don't have something that's proven, you're just guessing, and AI is just speeding up that. So AI can definitely help you, but don't chase the complexity. Don't chase AI agents. Just chase the understanding of what an AI agent is, because you may want to use it at some point, but you don't need to use it all the time. So here's a use case of one workflow that I use a lot weekly. And this is my content repurposing workflow. Let me zoom in here. It looks complex, but I promise it's not scary. It's just triggered by n8n. When I do a status, basically context ready, it gets triggered and takes all that stuff from the Notion page. In this case, it grabs the YouTube script. And what it does with that YouTube script is pretty cool. Instead of just using it for one single platform, I repurpose it for X and LinkedIn. But the even cooler part is that it doesn't just go by this linearly, meaning it doesn't just take one single script and just mindlessly repurpose it for all the platforms. Because sometimes an idea doesn't make sense for all the platforms. That's been my experience. And so what this does is it goes through some logic and it says, is this going to get posted on YouTube, LinkedIn, X? And if yes, let's assume it is, it'll generate captions for TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. It'll generate an X post. It'll generate a LinkedIn post, merge all of this information, and then post it back to Notion. And so this is powerful because it saves me a lot of time. It doesn't matter that I'm not using an AI agent in that traditional sense because I'm still saving a lot of time. Still, the logic itself is powerful. And what I'm doing here is I'm feeding it hooks and templates that are proven. So it's not working from zero. Is this the best architecture? Of course not. There's people probably having more simpler or even more complex or just better working. But I'm learning and the process is getting more refined as I get more views, as I learn what datas work, as I'm adopting new systems. This in itself is evolving. So that's what's most important. Don't get so caught up with the AI agent, even though this video is about AI agents. And so in this case, like if you look at these agents, and not in the traditional sense, just because they're called agents in n8n, they're simple. They have no memory. You can see this is blank. It just has a model. It's just using models, and that's it. This is a chain of thought. Think of it like a step, like a checklist. Say, hey, I want you to pay attention to this and do these steps before. Check your work. Do this, right? That's what these are. And this is not even an AI agent. So you look at this one's just straight model. So that's the whole gist of an AI agent and non-AI agent. But at the end of the day, n8n calls them AI agents. In the traditional sense, for at least for n8n, you're using AI agents. So don't get caught up with that though. Hopefully you understand now the difference between one that isn't and one that is. And you should get better on when to use them because most of the time you won't need them. The workflow that I showed you earlier, one of my most used workflows, and I don't have no agentic features to them. So here's this thing. You can spend another week watching theory videos about AI agents, or you can grab what I showed you and start using it today. I share templates like this on my website, links in the bio. I break down, and if you want this stuff sent straight to your inbox with the bonus workflows I don't share on YouTube, join my newsletter. Links in the description. I'll catch you in the next one.